Hi there, this is Olga with askyoursoul.org, and welcome to my regression session pre-talk presentation. I'm really glad you could join me for this presentation, and my hope is that I can answer some of your questions and maybe address some of your misconceptions about hypnosis and regression therapy in general with this presentation. So without further ado, here we go. So let's first talk about what hypnosis is and what it is not, because there's actually a lot of misinformation out there. So we want to know what we're actually dealing with here, right? So hypnosis actually comes from a Greek word hypnos, meaning sleep, and that was also the name of a Greek god of sleep. I just thought it was interesting. And the funny thing is, hypnosis actually has nothing to do with sleep itself, but we'll talk about that later. And it was James Braid, who was a Scottish physician and neurosurgeon, who actually coined the term hypnosis sometime in the 1800s. And if you would like more information about the history of hypnosis, which is actually really interesting in my opinion, you can totally check it out at historyofhypnosis.org. I think it's a very informative website. I just found it to be interesting, and maybe you will too. So we can simply think of hypnosis as an altered state of awareness, also known as trance, that allows us to connect and interact with the subconscious mind and your higher self, or the spiritual realm. So it's really whatever you feel comfortable with, but basically that's kind of the definition that I thought would be most fitting, even though there's a lot of different definitions out there. Usually it involves a pleasant feeling of complete physical and mental relaxation, although not always, because it really depends on the type of session that you're having. And you can be, it can be really charged, and you might be actually very, very alert versus then relaxed. So it really depends. It's also known for its high suggestibility, as you might know. And another definition, just to help you understand what it is basically a subtle shift of awareness that opens the door to your inner self. Great, so now let's talk about what hypnosis is not, because there's also a lot of misinformation out there. And first and foremost, you have to remember that hypnosis is not sleep in any shape or form. And actually, it's quite the opposite, because you're going to be awake and aware the whole time during the session. I mean, unless you are really tired and actually fall asleep, in which case it's not going to be hypnosis anyway. It's also not unconsciousness, because you are going to be very conscious and aware of what's going on. So your conscious mind is going to be monitoring the situation the whole time. And basically you're going to have multiple streams of awareness occurring simultaneously during the session. And hypnosis is not done to you. There's actually a very popular saying in the field of hypnosis that says, all hypnosis is self-hypnosis, and you're probably going to hear me repeat this again during the presentation, because really that's all that it comes down to. It's you allowing yourself to become hypnotized, not letting somebody else control your mind, which leads me to the next point, that it's not mind controlled by any means. We're not going to be doing this for any other reason than for you to be able to access some deep inner knowledge and connect possibly with your guides, or just access your past lives. So definitely no mind control going to be happening. And that's my little brainwashing picture that I found online. So yeah, just to put your mind at ease, we're not going to be making you do anything against your will, of course, during the session. That's not the point of it. So you're fully in control at all times, and you have the choice of whether or not to follow my suggestions or instructions, or what information you would like to share. Also, it's good to know that you're not going to do anything that's against your personal morals or values. And you can think of me as simply your guide. All I ask that you do the best that you can without trying too hard. and don't try to like make it happen, because it's actually not gonna work. All you have to do is allow for it to happen. It's also good to know that, if your mind just wanders off, that's totally fine. It happens all the time. It doesn't mean that you're not hypnotized. But if you find that that's what's happening for you, all you have to do is just focus on the sound of my voice again. Or you can also focus on your breathing if you'd like, and just go with the flow, see what happens. So another question that people often wonder about is if they can actually, quote unquote, do hypnosis. And that's a totally normal thing to wonder about, especially if you've never had an experience like that and you have no idea what to expect. So you might be thinking that you're too hyper or too scattered, you just can't relax, you want to get it right, but you have no idea how. So that's totally normal, and most people wonder that too. But the truth is that most people can absolutely get hypnotized. Anyone with normal intelligence can be hypnotized if you don't have any serious mental health issues. Anyone who can follow instructions can be hypnotized. And the funny thing is, you've probably done self-hypnosis your whole life without actually realizing it. So for instance, if you've ever driven a car somewhere and 20 minutes later you realize you have no idea how you got to that destination, or if you're watching TV and you're totally in the zone and the time just keeps passing by, or you're daydreaming or reading a book, basically becoming absorbed in any mental or physical activity. And there's always this feature of time distortion. Well, I shouldn't say always, but most of the time there's time distortion with hypnosis or the state of trance. So you thought that maybe 5 minutes passed by, but in reality, like 25 minutes passed by. That's definitely trance for you. So nothing that you haven't really experienced before. It doesn't have to be like that weird, scary thing. So the important thing to keep in mind is that hypnosis will only work if you actually want to be hypnotized. So again, all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. And if you have a very strong belief that you cannot get hypnotized, or if you're very fearful about this process, then unfortunately it's probably not going to work, which is why it's so important to allow for it to happen if you choose to do that. Because this is basically you working with your subconscious, not against it. If you're one of those people who's like, oh, I bet you can't hypnotize me, yeah, you're probably right. That's probably not going to happen, because your subconscious is not going to go against you and just let you get like totally carried away with somebody else controlling your mind. It's just not going to happen. Simple as that. So again, if you strongly believe that you cannot be hypnotized, it's not going to work, just so you know. So you have to be kind of open to this process to begin with. And I also wanted to make a distinction between what we'll be doing during the past life session and what you might know about stage hypnosis. So if you've ever seen anything like a stage hypnosis show where they have people up on stage and the hypnotist seems to be making them do whatever he wants them to do, like really weird things. And, it's just entertainment, it's just for fun. And the techniques that the hypnotist is using, it's pretty much like tried and true hypnotic laws and techniques. Some of them are not too different from what we'll be using during the session, but the difference is that I'm never going to ask you to do like crazy things like squawk like a chicken or do anything silly. Instead, we will be looking at a past life that you lived and possibly connecting with your guides, because that's our priority. We're not there for stage hypnosis. And the stage hypnotist usually uses things like suggestibility testing, fractionation, and there's a few other techniques that he can be using with great effect. So if you listen to their language carefully, for instance, you'll notice that he never says, like, you're Madonna, because the person on stage knows that they're not Madonna, right? Like, you can't deny that unless you're Madonna. So what the hypnotist would say is, you can sing like Madonna or you can dance like Madonna, and the person on stage decides and chooses or not to sing and dance like her. So ultimately it's up to that person on stage to decide whether to comply and play along. or not. And the important thing to remember is that they wouldn't be up on that stage if they didn't want to have fun and if they didn't want to do things like that, if they weren't ready for that. So it's kind of like whoever volunteers to do it probably has the whatever it takes to do that. You know what I mean? And then another myth is that you could get stuck in hypnosis, like in that movie Office Space. If you've seen it, it's a really funny, it's a comedy. It's a really funny movie. And that's a definite no. You cannot get stuck in hypnosis even if you wanted to. Sometimes people do, but they just can't. You can fall asleep during hypnosis if you're really, really tired or just super relaxed. But other than that, no one's ever been stuck in hypnotic trance other than this guy in Office Space, which I highly recommend you watch because it's hilarious. So I hope that answers most of the questions that you might have had about hypnosis in this process overall. But you're welcome to email me with any other questions that you might have, or you can just post them here on YouTube, and I'll be happy to answer whatever else you have in your mind. And now I would also like to talk more about the actual process of regression with you that we'll be doing. I just want to give you a few tips to help you get the most out of your session. And the first tip is that the whole thing starts with your impressions. So I'm going to be making statements and asking you questions, and they will stimulate some sort of a response in you, whether you see it or hear it or feel it or sense or just know it, or have some other way of that information coming in. So the important thing to remember is that you please do not edit, filter, analyze, or judge whatever comes into your mind or heart. Because your job is literally to verbally report the first thing that pops into your awareness and just let it be. So just to show you how it works, let's play a little game real quick. I'm gonna say a word and I want you to reply with literally the first word that comes into your mind. Just don't think about it, let go of any preconceptions, just whatever you think, say it. So, blue, 12, ocean, tree, sky. Great, so I hope you saw how easy this was. It should have been easy, right? This is very similar to what we will be doing during the session, and it will lead us exactly where we need to go. I will do my best to ask you non-leading questions, but the answers will simply pop into your mind like they literally just did with this exercise. It's just going to be different questions, obviously. So again, the most important part of this process is to trust the process, okay? And trust the information that comes in without overthinking it or trying to make sense of it. Because the truth is that it might not make sense at all in the beginning, or it might make little sense, and then a day or two later, or just after the session, you will realize why, like what happened and what this means for you. So honestly, just let it be. Secondly, as you probably know already, and I've kind of mentioned, we all have various sensory modes with which we receive this information, right? So we can be visual, auditory, kinesthetic, intuitive, olfactory, which is your sense of smell, or gustatory, that's your sense of taste. And actually, I believe there's more senses than that, but these are pretty much the main ones. So our session may involve one or more of your own senses, your primary senses. And again, however the information or experience comes to you, it's just perfect. Just trust it, okay? So please don't get hung up on it needing to be purely visual or purely auditory, because honestly, you might not actually see or hear anything, but you might feel yourself, feel that you're like in the middle of a celebration somewhere, or you might just know that you're walking through a forest, but might not have any visual input at that point. So the important thing is just trust the process, okay? Go with the flow. You will have forever to analyze it. So just don't worry about it and just let yourself be immersed in that process and let it take you more deeply into the experience itself. Okay, now let's talk about the single most important piece of information I can probably give you about the session, okay? So it's super common for clients to wonder or feel like they're making up the information that comes through. Because it usually feels somewhat hazy or dreamy, or maybe it reminds them of a book that they read, a movie they've seen. And of course, it's only natural to wonder, hey, did I just make this up? Was this even real? And believe me when I say that this is a very, very common feeling. And even after undergoing quite a few regressions myself, I still feel like that sometimes, or maybe even most of the time. But I've learned that it will sink in over time, and it will have some meaningful connection to my life if I just wait and let it settle for a few days. Because ultimately, there's a reason why I or you had this particular experience at this particular time, okay, and not a different one. So if you do feel like you're making it up, just keep making it up and see what happens. Honestly, just learn to trust the process, because overthinking it can actually interfere with the session to a point where the information will just stop flowing in altogether, okay, which would totally suck. So yeah, just like I said, it's gonna sink in over time. And please trust that there's a reason why you're having this particular experience right now and not a different one. So I believe that the reason why these regressions have this kind of unreal or kind of an amazing quality to them is that they actually come from our soul memories rather than our brain memories. So the memories of the brain feel usually quite more solid, right? Because they're actually stored in our brain cells or encoded in our neurons, however that process works. I'm not going to pretend like I know how exactly it works. But the soul memories, they have kind of more of a misty, kind of like a fantasy or make-believe quality to them, or imagination. Which, by the way, I just want to mention that we still don't fully understand what imagination is and how it works exactly, so I feel like we don't give it enough credit. So, truth be told, it can be kind of challenging to just allow these soul memories to come forward and trust them. And then after the session, allowing them to settle and watching the puzzle pieces as they fall into place. But it's gonna happen if you just allow it, okay? So again, instead of making it happen, just allow for it to happen. So I just want you to remember that your imagination is actually your soul's way of talking to you. So if you feel at some point unsure or you wonder if you're making it up, which you probably will be wondering about, I suggest that you say to yourself, wait a minute, she said that I might feel like this, and what was I supposed to do? That's right, keep going. You will have the rest of your life, literally, to analyze the session. Okay, so just don't waste any time trying to analyze it now, and have an adventure and trust the process. And I just really liked these two quotes. One is, imagination is the eye of the soul, and the other one is by Albert Einstein. Imagination is everything. It is the preview of life's coming attractions. So again, I just feel like we don't give enough credit to imagination. Okay, so to recap, all hypnosis is self-hypnosis, and it is essentially a feeling of deep physical and mental relaxation, usually. And again, it is not sleep, nor is it mind control. Nobody's getting controlled, don't worry. And you're going to be fully in control at all times, choosing which suggestions to follow and what information to share. And again, anyone with normal intelligence and whoever can follow directions can be hypnotized. So chances are you can totally be hypnotized if only you allow yourself to be. And again, you've done self-hypnosis all of your life. Remember those examples that I've given before, like driving a car or daydreaming or reading a book. And information may come in any way, depending on your primary sensory mode. So whatever comes in is just perfect. Please trust whatever comes in and don't waste time analyzing it, at least not yet, okay? And again, feel free to ask any questions that you might have. Also on my website, askyoursoul.org, there's an FAQs tab and a sessions tab that you can check out, which, I mean, I'm assuming you probably already did check it out and this is how you came across this video. But if you haven't, there's a lot more information on there as well. Okay, great. And now what I wanted to do was try a little exercise just to help you kind of get an idea of what to expect during the session. And of course, it's going to be a lot shorter than the actual session that we would experience, but it's just kind of to get you into that mode and just help you get relaxed a little bit, okay? So why don't you go ahead and lie back or sit back if you're not sitting down already, which would be weird, you know, listening to the whole presentation standing up. But just take your time, relax, sit back, and close your eyes now, and take a nice deep breath in and out. And now again, a nice deep breath in and out. And at this time, we're going to travel back to your own recent memory. So let's go to a pleasant or peaceful or just a quiet moment that you experienced within the last week or two. Just within the last week or two. You were somewhere doing something or doing nothing. That's totally fine. So take your time and just allow that memory to come floating into your awareness. And when it does, just notice how wonderful it feels to be in that pleasant memory, that pleasant moment of your life. And just notice if it's daytime or nighttime. Are you inside or outside? Are you standing or sitting down or lying down or moving? Just notice how good and peaceful it feels. Take it all in. And just enjoy this moment and let it fill you with peace and love and relaxation. And every cell of your being is lighting up, being filled up with this beautiful recent memory. All right, and now it's time to slowly open your eyes and come back here to be back with me. And I hope you enjoyed that experience. I hope it was relaxing for you. And I hope it gives you a very general idea of what to expect. So thank you for your time today. I hope that you found this presentation to be informative and fun, and it answered most of the questions you had about hypnosis and the process of regression. So I hope you enjoyed that. And being a French wannabe, I had to put Elfine at the end of the presentation. I just think it's always fun. So, of course, you're welcome to contact me via email or via the contact form at askyoursoul.org. And I would be really happy to work with you in the near future. So I hope you have an awesome rest of your day, and I hope to get in touch with you soon. Have a good one. Bye-bye.